We are yet back to study price theory. As already told, it is an expansive topic, so we are continuing with it, and we are now trying to handle the other side of the theory, which is the supply theory. The demand theory has already been handled. You know what demand is, factors affecting demand, stating the law of demand, why the demand curve is downward sloping, and the related concepts, marginal utility, elasticity, and so on. And we saw that under the market system, resources are allocated by the forces of demand and supply. And it is the demand and supply which determine the price of the commodity. That is why in price theory, we need to elaborate on the supply factor and the demand factor, such that when we come to interrelate them in the determination of prices, we actually understand where they come from and what they are. So price theory, our first question can be, what is supply? What is supply? So we shall be defining supply as per the economic understanding. And supply, like demand was, can be for an individual, or it can be an aggregate, which is for the entire producers who are engaged in the production of that particular commodity. With the supply, we are not looking at the consumer, no way. Consumer is simply waiting for the supply so that he can buy and satisfy his needs, and now it is the producer we are focusing on. So supply theory looks mainly at the producer and how he organizes factors of production to come up with a given amount of goods and services at a given time, being prompted by the price of that particular commodity. Why? Because we know that producers, suppliers being no exception, their motive is making or maximizing profits. So the issue of price of the commodity is a very big determinant in the amount that is going to be supplied. As again we are going to see when we come to state the law of supply, usually or in most cases or naturally, more of a good is going to be availed or manufactured or produced whenever it is carrying a higher price, so that the person engaged in its production can be able to reap high profits. Supply may be for an individual, that is an individual firm, an individual person, or it can be aggregated, where you look at all the suppliers of tomatoes in a given area, and then you aggregate it, you add it up, and see how much has been supplied of that particular commodity at a given time and at a given price. So in our introduction, we saw whenever we look at the individual, we are looking at it from the micro perspective. And when we look at the market or the aggregate, then we are looking at the macro perspective. So whenever we bring individuals together and look at them as a group to see how they function, to look at their actions, then we are trying to aggregate and make a macro kind of analysis. Then we shall see that supply is not the same. It can be differentiated into what we call joint or complementary supply, and we shall be able to define it. And even other commodities exist or are provided in a competitive way, or their supply is competitive. Again, this goes back to our introduction. The resources are not enough, and because they are not enough, even with the supply, we cannot be able to supply whatever we want. That is why the producer has to ask himself or herself what to produce, depending on the resources available. So the supply of commodities compete for the available resources. Whatever little you have, so the resources are versatile, they can be used in the production of as many products. So it is up to the producer to make a choice of which commodity to produce. And whenever you produce one and leave out the other, whatever you don't produce becomes your opportunity cost. So that arises mainly under the competitive supply, where the supply of commodities depends on the resources available and there is competition. Once you allocate your resources into the production of one, the other commodity which would have been produced by the same resources will not be produced because you already made a choice to produce one and not the other. Then we shall also try to come across the types of suppliers. Suppliers are not the same. Some are supplying in a monopoly way, so they are monopolists. Others are oligopolists. We also have what we call duopoly. Others are supplying in a situation which is perfectly competitive, and others in a situation which is monopolistically competitive. As again we shall be trying to analyze, monopoly carries the word mono, and mono means one, like monogamous marriage where one man should be having one wife. Oligo means few, so oligopoly is a situation, as we shall see, where we have few producers of a product. Duo means two, so here we have only two suppliers or producers of a commodity. And then here we have competition. The moment there is competition, you can't compete alone. No, you can't say that I'm competing in a class and you are alone. The moment you are alone, there is no competition. With competition, there has to be a rival. So here with perfect competition, we have many producers, but the issue that makes it perfect is that all of them, however many they are dealing in a homogeneous product. Then we have monopolistic competition, where we had monopoly here and we are adding it with competition, like we had in a mixed economy, where we blend elements of socialism with the elements of capitalism. Even here, in monopolistic competition, there are some elements of monopoly and also some elements of competition, hence coming out with monopolistic competition, whereby, as we are going to see, the supplier has monopoly over his product. Others are not supposed to produce his product, and the competition is in the market. You produce your product and you compete in the market. All of you may be producing toothpastes like Delident, Colgate, another one Pepsodent, another one whichever, Carbo, other than whatever, but at least the consumers are the same. So you compete to make sure that you are able to sell your product, because as we have already tried to enumerate on the various types of commodities in monopolistic competition, the commodities are not homogeneous like in perfect, but they are substitutable. In absence of one, you can take the other, except that there is what we call consumer royalty. There are some consumers, however cheap another commodity may be, they will never leave. They are addicted to or commodity which they are used to, and that is what we call consumer royalty. Somebody who is used to using Colgate, other toothpaste, however cheap Delident may be, he will never switch over to Delident. He will continue with Colgate at the high price at which it is selling. So you are loyal to that supplier of that commodity, and maybe you have sworn to yourself that you never leave that commodity because of the advantages or the benefits you derive out of it. So we shall look at all that and factors which affect supply. When does supply increase? When does it increase? What are the factors responsible for an increase in supply? What are the factors responsible for a change in supply? And things of that nature. So now let's define supply. What is supply? We can define supply as the amount of a good put to market, by a producer at a given price and time, other factors remaining constant. Other constant. So whenever we talk of supply, we are looking at a producer and we are trying to see how much or how big a quantity of a certain good, so amount is very important, of a given good, not goods, but we are looking at just one kind of good. He is willing, how much of a good a supplier is willing to put to market. Okay, it's like repetition. Amount of a good a supplier producer is willing to put on market at a given price and time, other factors remaining constant. We know that for a supplier, there are many factors that influence the quantity that he will produce. But here we are focusing, for understanding purposes, on the factor of price. If the price of a commodity changes, how is our supplier, our producer going to react? And we shall see, as far as supply is concerned, that whenever prices for given goods are high, suppliers who are always aiming at making a profit, they are going, or they are willing to supply more of that commodity so that they are able to reap the high profits. And when the price for the commodity is low, they are discouraged and they're disappointed, and usually they tend to reduce the supply of that commodity. It doesn't mean that there are no other factors which influence the supply of the commodity, but we focus on price first, and we say that other factors, we are keeping them constant. And this is for purposes of getting, as we are going to see, our law of supply. The law of supply has only two variables: the price of the commodity and the quantity supplied of that commodity, and then we are able to state it based on price and quantity when other factors are constant. And the issue of time is important. Time is important in supply. Why? Supply is not stagnant, it changes with time because of the changes in the other factors which affect supply. You can find that at one time you are in the agriculture sector as a producer, as a supplier, but all of a sudden the dry spell takes on a long time, and maybe you had even planted many and many acres, and you find that because of the dry spell, your crop has dried up. When you come to harvesting, you were willing to supply a lot of it on the market. The price is still high, but what happened? The crop was destroyed when it was still on the farm, when it was still on the garden. So other factors like natural factors are there. But now they are not the ones we are considering. We are simply looking at the price. So agricultural sector is commonly affected by the natural factors being either favorable or unfavorable. Wherever they are favorable, supply increases. Wherever they are unfavorable, supply of a given commodity may decrease or it decreases. Then we also have cost of production. How cheap or how expensive is it for you as a supplier to produce your good? Is the labor you employ in the production process cheap? Are you able to have the machinery? Can you get money in form of loans at low interest rates, or are they high? So eventually when you are tabulating or calculating your entire expenses that have been sunk into the production of that particular commodity, then you say that no, the cost of production are actually very high. I will not be able to engage in the production of that commodity. Labor may require higher wages, the machines are very expensive, and advertising also, I may need to advertise and it's not free. So all those, if they have been put into consideration, they make the supplier to make a decision of whether to go into the production of that good or to leave it. So there are so many factors, as we shall see them, that affect or influence or lead to supplying of a commodity, and price is just one of them, but the other factors, we keep them constant for study purposes at the beginning of our supply theory. And in supply, we have what we call individual supply. Like in individual demand, we look at an individual as an individual grower of maize. How much can you supply at a given time and at a given price? Individuals are free to engage in production, as we have seen in the capitalist economy or free enterprise economy, also known as the market economy. So where individuals own resources, they can engage in the production of a good and be able to supply it at a given price and time. So that amount or quantity supplied by an individual of that particular good at a given price and at a given time is what we call individual supply. It is on a micro perspective, examining just one person, one producer of that good, and you don't look at the entire amount that is produced by all the participants in the production of that good. So individual supply, we see, can be defined as the quantity of a commodity that a farm, because even a farm is the smallest production unit, and you can look at it as an individual, as many farms put together make an industry. But if it is one, we can look at it from the micro perspective and regard it as a single person, because a single person, you may be having your farm as one person, so we can look at it as an individual. So quantity of a commodity that a farm or a producer is willing to sell at various prices and at a given time. So quantity of not many, but just one. Quantity of a commodity a producer is willing to sell at a given price and time. At a given price and time. So that is what we call individual supply. You might find that an individual may be willing to sell a bigger quantity at a given price and time, or a smaller quantity at a given price and time, depending on the economic circumstances. When circumstances are permissive and they're positive, then he may be willing to supply or sell more. But when they are negative and they are not friendly, then he may be willing to sell a smaller quantity at that given price and given time. So that is individual supply. But when you move away from the individual, you go to the aggregate, and that is what we call market supply. So this is the summation or adding together of individual supply of a good at a given price and time. So whenever you sum up, you get an aggregate, you get the total. So you can find that is the total supply of a good by all the suppliers or all the producers of that commodity. So all producers of that good good, or producers of that good are considered, and their total supply becomes the market supply, So you add up the individual supply, summation of individual supply of a good. It has to be one good under consideration. Suppliers of all tomatoes, we have Mr. A, Mr. B. You add up the tomatoes of Mr. C, Mr. D, until the last one, and then you find that how much of the tomatoes have been put on the market at that price and at that time, such that we get what we call market supply. Then supply again has a nature. When we are supplying commodities, some commodities are jointly supplied, or their supply is complementary, meaning that their supply is inseparable. So these are products. Or this is the supply of products. This is the supply of products. This is the supply of products whose supply cannot be separated. Whose supply or production cannot be separated. That is supplying of one leads to the supply of the other. Examples, e.g., we have the meat from a cow, and hides. How do these ones complement each other? There is no way you can separate the production of meat from the production or supplying of hides. The moment you kill the cow, definitely hides have to come out, and the meat also has to come out. You can't say that, no, for me, I'm going to be supplying meat, and the hides are that one, it will not appear. Never. The hide will appear whether you want it or not, though the consumers are not the same. The buyers of meat are not the same as the buyers of hides, and the functions of meat are not the same as the functions of hides. But these two are inseparable in their supply, in that they all are on a cow, but you find that the moment you want meat, definitely hides have to be available. The moment you are a dealer in hides, there is no way you can take away the skin of a cow and leave it with no skin when it is alive. No, it is unbelievable. Nobody can believe it, and it will be torturing the animal and maybe taking its rights, animal rights away from it. So these are usually regarded as commodities which are jointly supplied, or commodities whose supply is complementary. Supplying of one leads to the supply of the other, and it is inseparable. So these are the supply of products whose supply or whose production cannot be separated. Supplying of one leads to the supply of the other, and a good example is meat from a cow and the hides. The two are different commodities. That's why they're even carrying different names. Therefore, they are serving different purposes to different consumers, but their supply comes at the same time. Then we also have competitive demand, which is also there. So it's competitive supply. Competitive supply. Competitive. Competitive supply. So this is where two commodities or two or more products compete for the same resource. Compete for the same resource for their production, for their supply or production, for their supply or production. This is where two or more products compete for the same resource for their supply or their production. We call it competitive supply. And if I give an example, maybe you can be able to clearly get it. Assuming that somebody has an acre of land. That acre of land is competing or is being competed for by more than one commodity. On that land, you can rear animals. You can construct a building. Or you can use this at farmland for agriculture. And many other uses. So this land is versatile as a factor of production. It can be used for many activities. If you have your land, you can choose, as already I've seen. Now our land is our limited resource, and now we are trying to make a choice of how we are going to use our land. You can either rear animals on this land, you can either construct a building on this land, maybe a school, and then you get money out of the school fees that people are going to be paying on that in that school that is on your land. Or you can use it as farmland or agricultural land where you grow coffee, you may grow bananas and sell them. Or the animals are maybe for meat or milk, and all these are likely to give you an income. But now you have an acre of land. You cannot say that this acre of land you are going to use all of it to rear animals. The moment you use all of it for the rearing of animals, there is no more land that will be left for the construction of the school. So now, choosing the land for the rearing of animals makes you to forego the operation of a school. So the school becomes your operating cost. So we consider how our concept we began with are also arising in our price theory, demand theory. In every activity, the element of scarcity, choice, and operating cost comes in. Now we are looking at competitive supply. Producers are planning to supply or avail a commodity, but they are confronted with the scarcity of land. And they have to make a right choice. On the limited land which I have, what is the best economic activity that I'm going to utilize it for? So the moment you choose one and leave out another, you create an opportunity cost. So we find that all these activities are competing to be done on that land. So that's why we say that the supply of these commodities is competitive, because all of them can be produced on land, but the land is not enough, and for that matter, whichever is more competitive in terms of profitability and maybe cost of production is what the owner of the land is going to choose. So other than commodities being supplied jointly, we also have those commodities which have competitive supply. And it is very important in supply or for a producer to make the best choice because resources usually are not enough. Here we have taken an example of land, but it may be another resource, and you find that it can be used in a variety of economic activities, but the moment you choose on one, resources are not enough for the other. So there are so many products which are competing to be occupying or to be utilizing that resource, but they are not enough or the resources are not enough to satisfy all of them. So that is what we call competitive supply. Supply of two or more commodities that at least compete for the same resource for their production. Okay, let's look at the types of suppliers now. Types of suppliers. And let's begin. Types of suppliers. Let's begin with monopoly. This is a situation where we have the existence of only one supplier or producer of a good or service with no rival firms or substitutes. So whenever we talk of monopoly, our idea should be focusing on that supplier who is only one. Okay? He is only one and is producing a good or service where there are no other persons, so there are no other rival firms that are engaged in the production of that similar product, and you find that that product can never be substituted. We studied our goods, that we have substitute goods. These are goods which can operate in absence of another. But in monopoly, even substitutes are not there. So we find that we have those kinds of suppliers. But in reality, as we are already, our heading shows this is theoretical. But in reality, we don't have such suppliers where commodities don't have substitutes, because it is the consumers who are able to substitute whatever is not available according to their desires and needs. So commodities can be substituted depending on the consumer's needs or the consumer's desires. But theoretically, monopoly is the existence of only one supplier of a good or service with no rival firms, and if there are no rivals, it means that nobody is producing any kind of substitute. So those suppliers may be there, and usually, as you have noted, when we are looking at economic systems, monopoly operations exist in socialist or market-free enterprise economies, where there is that freedom of everybody to engage in production, and the strong ones are the ones who survive. So monopolies usually are the strong ones and outcompete the others, and they remain in the production process. Then we have another type of supplier who may be in oligopoly. Oligopoly. As I said, oligo means few, so this is where we have the existence of few suppliers of a good, it may even be a service, a good or service, existence of few suppliers of a good or service which may be homogeneous or differentiated. So if you have oligopoly, usually the suppliers are few. Here we had only one, but here they are few, and they can be as few as two. If they are two, again we say they are very few. So where they are as few as two, then we call that one duopoly. So duopoly is where we have only two suppliers of a good, and again this good may be homogeneous, meaning they are the same, or they may be differentiated. Where the goods are homogeneous, we refer to that duopoly as perfect duopoly. And where the commodities are differentiated, then it is imperfect oligopoly. So duopoly, only few sellers. They may be as few as two, and they may be dealing commodities which can either be differentiated or homogeneous. Where the commodities are differentiated, it is imperfect oligopoly. But where they deal in exactly the same or similar products, then we refer to that one as perfect oligopoly. We shall expound more on it when we come to these market structures in the topic of production. So that is monopoly. Our number 2 was oligopoly. And then number 3 was duopoly. Then in number 4 we have perfect competition. And this is the existence of many. We are moving away from many and away from few. So we are moving away from one and we are moving away from few, and now we are becoming as many as possible. So this is the sense of many sellers or suppliers of a commodity or a product which is homogeneous. So there are many producers who are engaged in the production of that one commodity. That's why it is homogeneous. It is one and the same. But the people who are supplying it are many. It is no longer one, they are no longer few, but now they are getting more and more. And this one, where there is perfect competition, it does not exist where you are one. It may exist where you are few, but it's more prevalent where you are as many as possible. And usually perfect competition exists or operates in capitalistic market economies, or the capitalist economies, also known as the market economy, or unplanned or uncontrolled economy. Then our number 5 of types of suppliers is the monopolistic competition. Monopolistic supplier, monopolistic competitor. So some suppliers operate in situations of monopolistic competition. So this is where, again, we have many, because you cannot compete when you are one. Many sellers or many suppliers of, now it's no longer commodity, but many commodities also, many products, and these products are no longer homogeneous, but they are differentiated, which are differentiated. And it is observed that, and each supplier has monopoly power, has monopoly power over his or her product, but competition is in the market. Competition is for the market. So each one wants to market his product, and that's where they compete. You have to know how to present your product in the best way possible, either through branding, packaging, advertising. So we find that under monopolistic competition, there is a high degree of advertising where the producers or suppliers try to brainwash the consumers towards the buying of their commodities after convincing them that my product is better than that one of the other competitor. So they are competing, but at least each one has monopoly power. And if somebody tries to imitate your product and sell it, you have the legal obligation to take him to the courts of law, because that's what monopolistic competition compels producers to do. You have your commodity, you may be producing maybe books, maybe for notebooks for students writing, and I think you see a variety. There are so many, but they all serve the same word, the same purpose, but they are differentiated either through branding. You put their different name, you put their different cover, you advertise it, and that kind of thing. So there, whenever you are advertising, you are competing for the market, because there are other books that can serve the purpose of your commodities. Your commodity is substitutable. It's not only one. It's not under monopolistic control. So you have to bear whatever is occurring in the market, because you are many and the products serve the same purpose. They are substitutable. So that is what we call the types of suppliers. You can be one, you can be few as two, you can be many, but your products are homogeneous, and you can be many when your products are differentiated. Now let's go to another issue.